Hello, everybody. First of all, thank you for welcoming you in this beautiful city. It's Budapest. It's my second time here. I really like it. Anyway, I'm going to talk today about MikroTik Enterprise Wireless Networks and how to set up CAPsMAN in 5 minutes. For sure, I'm not going to talk just 5 minutes, but after all the configuration can be done in less than 5 minutes. I wanted to tell just a little bit about me. I've worked in IT industry since '99. I've worked in IBM servers. In those time, it was the Windows NT. Some of you may remember it. I've worked in MikroTik since 2006, and in that time, we also created our own company called Easy Network Solutions. We are now the biggest distributor in Albania. I've got my, in those time it was not yet called MTCNA, but MikroTik Router S certification in 2007. And then after all, in 2011 in Budapest, MTCRE, and only in 2019 I decided to get my trainer certificate. I'm very happy to be a MikroTik certified trainer because we already did many trainings, but now the people started to like more to be also certified, not just trained. We worked in many different projects all these years. We have set up many networks. We trained staff of ISPs. We helped ISPs to expand big and small in different countries near Albania. I've just added a photo here of a router board 1000 just because I saw it some weeks ago and it was still working from 2009. It's just an interesting photo to show that I think most of the MikroTik products can be very durable in time and very confident. We also just created our MikroTik training center in Tirana when we have already did many MTCNA trainings. Most of them were from ISPs that wanted to have their staff certified. You can check us in the internet for more information. What are wireless networks? Just to pass it, what we are going to discuss today. What are wireless networks and why do we need them? The most important thing is because it's very easy in our everyday work to lose focus. We just start to make things just out of habit that we do things. So we need to turn back a little bit and to see why we need some things and why we need to do better those things. Wireless networks are everywhere because nearly all mobile devices support them. Every cell phone, every laptop, every, communication device, Kindle, and that you can think of, has already a wireless card. The preferred way of connecting to the internet by most of people are wireless networks. Many people don't like cables. Even my wife at home doesn't like the cables. She likes to be connected, if possible, even without a computer or cell phone. But since we can't take rid of them, at least take rid of the cables. They offer liberty of movement. And wireless networks, that's the most important thing, can go where no wire can go. We can do networks with wireless that can't be done with wires. How did all these came to be? First, we created networks with just one IP. We took one IP back in 2005 or 4, and that IP was more than enough for us to be connected. As soon as we started to need bigger networks, we started to add more and more and more APs. Also, we started to, or thought to make bigger APs, and many vendors, as you may already know, have done bigger APs with bigger antennas. But this didn't work as expected. You maybe know that bigger antennas were not just the solution for this thing. That's why we started to add more and more access points. And how did we finish? We finished by creating these big monsters, big networks with 40, with 50 access points, uncontrollable ones. For every thing that we wanted to do in those networks, we had to enter in every access point to see where a client was connected, to see what was the problem for the client. So we thought to create those that we call today enterprise wireless networks. Multiple access points, because multiple access points are needed for multiple areas to cover. The necessity for higher bandwidth also made us to need more access points. And the problem that we got when we added this big number of access points was the fact that the bigger the number of APs, the more difficult is the control. And as some of you may have heard, power is nothing without control. So MikroTik came, saw us like these little babies crying and afraid about what we created, and decided to give us a tool. In my opinion, the most powerful tool that it's in wireless. They created what we call a CAPsMAN, a Controlled Access Point Manager. What is CAPsMAN? CAPsMAN is a centralized system. It gives the possibility to create a system of control access points that are controlled by a controller that is called CAPS Manager. One of the most important things is that it's free. So you get it with every router board, and you get it even with every CHR, with every virtual machine that you install MikroTik. Since 2014, we started to make everything wireless in CAPsMAN. We changed the way that we planned and designed our networks. What is needed for a CAPsMAN installation? Only at least one device with one wireless card. When I say one device, it seems a little bit odd, because what's the point to control one device with a centralized controller that is done for many devices? I say this because even with just one router board, I and my colleagues have started to configure CAPsMAN, because it's nearly certain that a person nowadays will need more than just one access point in its installation. So as soon as a client asks for a router board, we start, and before giving him that router board, we don't configure it as an isolated AP, but we configure CAPsMAN there, and we add the cards of that router board to that CAPsMAN installation. AHP Mini, it's a device that many of you may know and already got it as a gift from MikroTik. MikroTik has been so gentle to start and giving for free these router boards in every month. You can use it, even since it is very small, you can use it to test the CAPsMAN. But for just one device, as I said, or two devices, CAPsMAN doesn't give you the idea of its powerfulness. So I can give you a bigger setup. A bigger setup that's a Duros Harbor container terminal that we finished some years ago, that has 27 towers with 2 or 3 APs for each tower. They are run by a CCR 1009, and all the antennas are configured in a CAPsMAN and managed from CCR. If you think about a bigger setup than this, we just finished it now, a resort with 123 antennas, so one access point for every room. Imagine to have a resort or hotel like this one that we are here today, and every room needs nowadays to have its own access point and preferably dual band. WSAP does a very, very good job about this. When we talk about wireless installations, also we have the difference in frequency. I'm not going to talk here about what are the differences in 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. Each of them has its own pros and its own cons. The hardware, depending on environment, is multi-choice, but the most used hardware that we can see today, every MikroTik installation, are the dual band IPs. The dual band IPs in 2.4 and 5 gigahertz give the best solution that you can do for a network installation. If the hardware or the client cell phone or laptop supports 5 gigahertz, he's going to prefer that 5 gigahertz because it will give higher speeds. But if not, older phones or older laptops can also use the 2.4 gigahertz. Say SAP AC and WAP AC dual bands are the most successful products from MikroTik about these installations. How a CAPsMAN works? A CAPsMAN can be installed in two ways. The topology can be in two ways. The first is the one I'm showing here, that we have the access points that are going to be controlled, all connected to a switch, preferably PoE. Then with a router, and that router has a connection to the internet. But also, a CAPsMAN can be installed in a CHR way, or for example in a virtual machine that is not in the client premises, but gives much more liberty about administration. We can talk about them later. I promised to tell you about a setup, an easy setup of CAPsMAN for just 5 minutes. So, I'm showing here a simple topology, the simplest topology that you can think of. What? Do we have a router? Router 1. We have it connected to the internet, and we have 2 routers connected to it. Imagine there are access points that are going to be connected in this R1 where we are going to configure CAPsMAN. We take as granted that our R1 already has internet connection, so we are not going to talk about that. Just think of it that we already have. We have connection through Ether 1, and we start by adding a bridge. We need a bridge because you can think of CAPsMAN like a controller that is going to get all the wireless clients, the wireless cards of the clients, and add them to its own hardware. So we are going to finish, it's not just that, no, it's not that, but we are going to finish by having a router board that has CAPsMAN and having multiple interfaces. So we add a bridge without any ports, because after that, we are going to use this bridge as a data path. We also need to give to this bridge an IP, and this IP is going to be the gateway for the clients of this wireless network. After we do the IP, we add the rule of masquerade, if we use masquerade in our network. These are basics of computer networking, so I think many of you already know. We also need a DHCP. The DHCP server is the most preferred way of having an IP from a server or from a wireless network. So normally, if we don't have a network where the company asks for the IPs to be put manually in the computers or in the cell phones of the employees, normally in an open place like in a hotel or a resort or a beach, normally we need a DHCP server, so every client that connects with his cell phone gets an IP and connects to the internet. After we set up all this, is the time to start setting CAPsMAN. CAPsMAN is in the left in a Wim box, and in every Wim box you can see that entry. When you open the window of CAPsMAN, we have different tabs, and the funny thing is that always we have to start from right to left, not from left to right. So the first tab that we can start off is the security configuration tab. Why? Normally, we can choose to have security or not in our wireless networks. So the clients will need to be connected by entering a password or not. If not, we don't use this tab. If we need security, we start by this tab. In the security configuration, we see that we have the same options like the security configuration in normal wireless APs. So we had them type of authentication type, encryption, and then we have we add a password that is going to be used from all the clients that are going to be connected to this network. We can change the name, or we can leave it like that. It's not a problem. The second tab, so remember we are going from right to left. The second tab is the data path. What is the data path? You can think of it as a route, as a way that the packets are going, or the packets from these clients are going to use to go in the internet. We created a bridge, and now we just add a data path. The name we also can leave like it is now. We can choose the bridge that we created. I also signed there the client-to-client forwarding. That's an option, very interesting. It's the same as default forwarding in AP, in a normal AP. You also should be very careful to choose it when you have big networks, because communications between clients can make your network to be more busy than normal. After we create the data path, we go in the configuration tab. In configuration tab, we can add the mode that our wireless is going to work, and now it's only AP. We can't choose any other modes in MikroTik. We add the SSID, but we don't press apply, and we go in data path. We choose the data path that we created, and in security, we choose the security that we created. After everything, we press OK. Provisioning is a tab that is going to tell our CAPsMAN how is it going to add all the access point, the control access point to our network. The option that I mostly use is action create enabled, because this is going to create static interfaces in CAPsMAN. And the name format, identity. The identity there shows the CAPsMAN to add the interfaces from the controlled access point based on the name, on the identity that we have added to our CAPs. That is why very important, and that you may already know, to have an identity in all router OS that we use. Lastly, in CAP interface, in the main tab of CAPsMAN, we go to Manager, we click Enabled. We can just press OK and our setup will be finished, but also we have a button there, Interfaces. Interfaces is a button that was added recently that gives us the opportunity to choose in what interfaces our CAPsMAN is going to, let's say, serve, or is going to look for CAP connections. Normally, in a router that it's connected to the internet and we don't want to get controlled access point from the internet side, we just disable or we just forbid the Ether one that we have for internet connection. Anyway, if we choose the interfaces, we press OK, and our setup is finished. So for now, in the router one, we already have CAPsMAN installed and running. It is waiting for connections from the controlled access points. The configuration in the controlled access point is very, very easy with just one window and just 2 or 3 buttons to press. We go in wireless, and with the button CAP, we choose if it's enabled or not. We choose the interfaces. If our router board has 2 interfaces, we choose both of them if we want to add them to the CAPsMAN. And in Discover Interfaces, we choose the interface where our CAP is connected to the CAPsMAN. We just press OK, and we see that after we press OK, the wireless interfaces in that router board show that they are like disabled, but show in red they are managed by CAPsMAN. Also, they give some more details about in what channel they are transmitting, also about their SSID, and the CAPsMAN is forwarding the packets. If we do this after some seconds in the main router, the CAP interfaces, we see created 4 interfaces. Why? Because our R2 has 2 wireless cards and has 2 interfaces here, And also the main CAPsMAN has 2 wireless cards that we can add also to this install. The most used tab from the administrator point of view is registration table. There we can see all the clients connected to our CAPsMAN installation. We see the interface, SSID, MAC address of every of them, the same that we would do with any CAP. But now we have all of them in the same window. I said 5 minutes, and it's like 20 minutes that I'm talking now. But if we are going to do everything manually via Winbox or also by using command line interface, it is just like 8 or 10, maximum 10 commands to set up CAPsMAN. So everything was going to be done in like 3 minutes or even less if we are a little bit familiar with command line interface. In a CAP, it's just 1 line of command to add a CAP to a CAPsMAN. I want to ask you if you see any difference between these 2 pictures. They're the same or they're not the same? What do you think? It's the same, but still the image is different. What? It's the same statue, but in the first one, it was like a work of about 1 day. In the second one, it's the same statue that has been worked for 5, 6, or 8 days. Why? Because everything needs more work, and the more work we do in something, the more complete statue or the more complete work we get. So normally, I talked about an installation that is going to be done in 5 minutes, but for a hotel like this, it's normal that we can't do anything with just 10 commands. So what can we do, and what CAPsMAN gives us for more configuration? The frequency tuning, it's a very important step that we can use to have an extensive setup. Virtual SSIDs in different companies or hotels, we can need more than 1, more than 2, or more than 5 or 6 SSIDs. Different SSIDs for staff, different SSIDs for guests, and so on. Usage of VLANs gives much more options to have networks separated from each other, still being in the same wireless networks, in the same infrastructure. And also, access control. We can play with access control to have more possibility over the clients where they are going to connect their signal and so on. So the first thing that we can do for the channels in 2.4, many of you must know that there are only 3 overlapping channels in the band. So we need, at least for our access point, to be able to be as more separated as we can. So we add manually the band and the frequency, and then we use those channels in every interface that we have in CAPsMAN. To make roaming as easy as possible in a network, we can use access list to permit one client to connect to an IP and to deny or to reject one of them if it has very low signal. So it makes the client be rejected from the access point and be connected to another access point that has stronger signal maybe. In CAPS provisioning, we can also add these that are called the slave configurations. The slave configurations make possible for access points to be added with virtual wireless cards, and we can have different SSIDs, and when we have different SSIDs, we can also have different security, different data path, and so on. So when we finished all of this, our setup is not like it was before, but now we can see that we also have these virtual interfaces. These virtual interfaces give us the possibility, as I said, to have different SSIDs, different data paths, different security, and so on. So when I talked before about a multi-room resort, I talked about like 150 access points all connected to a main router. Add to them the fact that we are going to use like 2 or like 4 different SSIDs, the final CAPsMAN is going to be like this. We have like 520 or like 540 interfaces in the same CAPsMAN. Imagine a different network this size, and it is running, it's already running, and it is running in just one CCR 1009. It's not a very powerful router, but for now it is doing a very great job. So when using CAPsMAN, the maximum thing that you have to do is to also check in what hardware you are going to run it. So don't use a very low-end router. You already can use the mini AP that you got in the MOM, but just for testing purposes. And then you nearly have no limit on ways of configuring a CAPsMAN and on the tools that it uses. After we do this in a network, we have much more control over the Wi-Fi network. We now know or can see in any moment where our clients are connected, where is the problem, different messages in the logs from clients passing to one AP to the other, and so on. We have easier expansion. So as soon as we need more APs, we just add them to this CAPsMAN, and CAPsMAN is already set up. We have more stable connections because we also played with the network, with the band and the channels in different frequencies. Practically, CAPsMAN gives us a very big number of possibilities. And what is important more for us is that after all of this, we should have happy clients and also paid invoices. So this was all I was going to talk to you about. I know that I've been more long than just 5 minutes, but if you try this setup at home, I assure you it is going to take much less than 5 minutes. If you have any questions? I see you already are too much familiar with CAPsMAN, maybe.
Thank you, Arian, for your presentation.